Welcome on the Cosmic Atom. Some folks study books, others examine the stars. The most dangerous ones, however, are interested in you because you succeeded without becoming one of them. There's been a peculiar quiet behind your name recently. Not in peace, but with paranoia. You are not paranoid. You're being seen, monitored, and examined like a puzzle that no one can solve. And this is a reality. According to psychological study, those who violate societal expectations, particularly those who overcome adversity, tend to become unconscious objects of fascination. You did not only climb, you altered their world. They now demand answers since you aren't only on their thoughts. You're under their scrutiny. You were not intended to make it. Not without playing their games. Not without kissing their boots and eating their shine. But you did. You succeeded while maintaining your integrity, with the truth in your eyes and fire in your footsteps. And they're not sure whether to applaud, confess, or clone you. They are paying close attention to everything you do. Like your life's Netflix docuseries, how the chosen one beat the system. And surprise, there are no trailers, scripts, or repeats. You are the spoiler. Stay with me. For what you're about to hear is not for the faint of heart. It's for those who burst ceilings, survived sabotage, and yet had the audacity to grin like they hadn't just stepped out of a battle zone. Let's talk about why they're covertly monitoring you and how the knowledge that you made it is haunting them. First and foremost, they lack curiosity. They are perplexed by your unique situation. They are not observing you because they are impressed. They are looking at you because they are perplexed. You didn't meet their expectations. You did not break. You did not fold. You did not beg. You produced it without their aid or permission. That is what is interfering with their minds. You weren't intended to be more than a label. They attempted to label you, but you turned it into fuel, and now they're looking at you like you're a living contradiction. It is not adoration. It is analysis. They are attempting to make sense of you. You don't fit into the patterns they're used to. You don't follow the emotional scripts. They understand. You do not react like other individuals who have been abused, insulted, or doubted. Instead, you grew. You become smarter, sharper, and calmer. That's what makes people anxious. They can't figure out how someone who should have fallen under pressure managed to level up instead. They've seen individuals speak a nice game only to collapse and burn when life hits them hard. They've seen people appear to be tough until genuine betrayal tests them. However, you encountered genuine storms. You didn't just survive. You developed. You outgrew the very traps they hoped would keep you contained. They're now circling around, analyzing your every move, attempting to analyze your thoughts, energy, and even your quiet, since something about you doesn't make up. And that mystery undermines all they thought they understood about individuals like you. This goes deeper than curiosity. It is disbelief. You shouldn't still have that glow in your eyes. You're not meant to remain compassionate, focused, creative, and whole. But you are. They now want to know how. How did you get out of the mental prison they placed you in? How did you get out of the hole they built for you with no resentment or baggage? They cannot ask you directly. Instead, they watch. They're attempting to find out how people like you exist. The solution is easy. You are not made like them. Power does not need acceptance. You never need affirmation to be worthwhile. You succeeded not by imitating the world, but by being precisely who you were meant to be. And now they are watching, attempting to decipher a blueprint they can never grasp. Number two, you completed it without their blueprint. They now want to reverse engineer your soul. You didn't take their way. You did not seek for their approval. You did not imitate their success recipe. And that is precisely why they are now enamored with you. They are not inspired. They're upset because you breached every guideline they said was required to ascend. You did not get to where you are now via networking. You did not compromise your authenticity for acceptance. You did not sell your soul for spotlight. You just followed your own route and made it. They now want to reverse engineer what you have become. They want to investigate your tale as if it were a scientific experiment. Not to rejoice, but to learn how someone who did not do things their way nonetheless achieved the desired outcomes. They believed only they deserved. You're a bug in their matrix, an outlier in the system. They admire you because you chose purpose above acceptance and still succeeded, which blows their minds. You're evidence that the game is rigged, yet you still managed to go through it without cheating. You did not simply make it. You succeeded without becoming one of them. That's what's disrupting their world. They believe that cold, false, calculated, or manipulative behavior leads to success. But you arrived with heartfelt humility and perfect timing. And now they can't decide whether to envy you or question you. They keep monitoring you because, deep down, they're hunting for your power source, but they'll never discover it since your strength isn't based on your standing. It stemmed from spiritual alignment. You were directed, not manicured. You were selected, not made by the mob. And since they can't link your success to their methods, groups, or tactics, you become a mystery. They want to crack. They are applied to formulae. However, your voyage did not follow a set formula. It was a heavenly unfoldment. It was chaotic, spontaneous, and full with situations they could never have survived. And you're still gleaming. They now demand access. They seek to evaluate your motions in the hopes of copying what cannot be replicated. But you did not come from textbook. You emerged from the flames. You did not win by playing their game. You won by walking away. And this is something they will never be able to recreate. Number 3, your tragedy did not disable you. It transformed you into a spiritual weapon. They expected you to succumb to the suffering. They expected the trauma to leave you permanently wounded. They were certain that after going through betrayals, losses, lies, and emotional warfare, you would become bitter, damaged, or both. Instead, you gained sharpness, intelligence, wisdom, and strength. You did not collapse. You changed. That is precisely why you're being observed right now. You didn't just withstand the strikes. You learned from them. You did not numb out. You examined the wounds. You did not reject the gloom. You confronted it head-on. And from that sorrow, you drew understanding, judgment, and strength. That's unusual. Most individuals either shut down or act out. You did neither. You went deep, cleaned house, performed the inner job, and emerged as a new sort of weapon, quiet, precise, and difficult to anticipate. They can't stop studying you because they don't comprehend how someone can pass through hell and emerge clear-minded, pure-hearted, and spiritually deadly. You aren't hazardous because you're loud. You're dangerous because you have been cured, because you did not let what occurred to turn you callous or numb. You transformed it. You made your anguish more intense. You converted your scars into signals. You don't need vengeance. You became evidence that their onslaught had failed, and it is what eats them the most. You did not shrink. You did not comply. You avoided becoming what damaged you. You rose, and you have clarity. Now you're moving differently. You can see through people. You can sense the energy change before anybody talks. You may discern motivations before they are uttered. You developed spiritual awareness in ways that cannot be taught. That is why they are keeping an eye on you now. Because your progress revealed their games. Your healing rendered their manipulation futile. They can't utilize the same techniques anymore since you've advanced beyond their capabilities. They never saw that amount of inner strength coming. And now they're studying your serenity, confidence, and radiance. Not because they like it, but because they don't know how you did it without freezing. However, you did not just bounce back. You climbed. You haven't merely recovered. You've unlocked something inside yourself. They'll never touch. Number 4, your presence highlights their performance. You don't strive to be profound. You do not attempt to be strong. You simply are. And it is precisely what makes people uneasy. You have something that cannot be faked. When you arrive, the energy alters. Not because you are loud or theatrical, but because your calm presence demands the truth. You don't compel people to be honest. They feel vulnerable in your presence and begin fumbling with their own masks. That is the power you hold. Not forced attention, but unmistakable alignment. You do not perform. You don't pretend. You do not shrink to make others comfortable. And that's when the tension starts. Most individuals have spent so much time performing, appearing confident, compassionate, and cheerful that they have forgotten what it is like to be genuine. Then you step inside. You're not putting on a show, but everyone else's performance begins to seem artificial, even to them. People don't always understand why they feel uncomfortable with you, but they do. Something about you pulls issues to the forefront. They told themselves falsehoods, played roles, and avoided the reality. Your soul does not tolerate pretense, which is why people either draw towards you or pull away quickly. It is not personal, it is spiritual. They aren't reacting to your personality. They are responding to your frequency. They're observing you because you upset the surroundings just by being yourself. You're a reminder of what they gave up, buried, and stopped believing in. You demonstrate that authenticity is still achievable in a world full with reproductions. And it's not like you're attempting to expose somebody. It simply happened. Your honesty is so loud that it echoes through their performance. Your light does not need a spotlight. It makes the spotlight seem unneeded. That is why you're being examined. Not because you want to shine, but because your authenticity causes everything artificial around you to deteriorate. You don't only inspire others, you make them doubt who they are claiming to be. And not everyone is prepared for that kind of confrontation. Number 5, you are a live recipient of what they were unable to kill. They flung everything at you. Lies, defamation, manipulation, emotional traps, and even intentional silence. And they were certain it would ruin you. They didn't just wish to harm you. They intended to obliterate you. They planned to destroy your reputation so thoroughly that no one would ever believe in your light again. But here you are, still living, rising, and gleaming with a calm vigor that confirms every word they said about you is false. You are not merely a survivor. You are proof. They can't spin it any longer. People who formerly thought you were unstable, worthless, or insignificant must now see your success. They created a complete version of your tale based on destruction. However, you proved to be the unexpected narrative twist. Because you didn't simply return, you recovered better. Your health, elevation, and tranquility. It is all paperwork. Every step you take towards your goal is a receipt stating that this is what they attempted to kill but failed. And that is what worries them. You're a living contradiction to the story they attempted to construct. You are still nice, talented, driven, and selected. You did not get resentful, despite having every reason to. Despite the fact that they deserved it, you did not get fixated on vengeance. You just continued developing. And suddenly your sheer existence makes them responsible. They don't want people to see you right now because the falsehoods will no longer be effective. Your life has become proof. You did not defend yourself with words. You let the fruit to speak. They attempted to bury you, but you turned into a seed. They attempted to silence you. However, your purpose began to speak louder than any words you could have uttered. You were not only difficult to break, you were tough to erase. Now you go around with receipts, not to prove anything to them, but to remind yourself that no weapon built against you ever had a chance. You are exactly what they feared would happen if you ever recovered. You are what they attempted to stop before. It might completely form. Now all they can do is watch. You made it, and each lie they utter collapses. Every moment your truth enters the room. Number 6, you are the spiritual abnormality they did not expect. You don't function like the others. They're aware of this at their core. Something about you doesn't quite fit with how the world expects individuals to move. You're not motivated by ego, popularity, or prestige. You're motivated by something deeper, something ageless. That is why you're being examined. Not only are you being observed out of interest, but also out of perplexity, since your presence calls into question everything they thought they knew about power, identity, and purpose. You don't play by the rules since they were never intended for someone like you. You aren't driven by fear, money, or competitiveness. You're moved by inner wisdom, the heavenly pool, or something old. You're not just here to break cycles. You're here to dismantle whole plans that have trapped generations in spiritual poverty. This is why you don't fit. This is why you feel misunderstood. Even in crowded rooms, you were not designed for the system. They only thought you'd forget about the codes you weren't taught. Only recalled that you move at frequencies that most people cannot hear but can feel when you enter a room. Your very presence awakens what has been dormant inside others for years. Not because you're flamboyant or loud, but because your spirit talks in languages older than their reasoning, which confuses them. You're the kind of abnormality that was not expected and certainly not welcomed by those who gain from everyone being sleeping. They attempted to quiet the rebellious side of your lineage. They attempted to bury the knowledge that existed before fear took hold. But it arose in you. You're not just living your life. You're living for the forebears who were denied the right to speak, and for the visionaries who died before their voices could be heard. That is why you cannot be caged in. That's why your perspectives are so diverse. You are tied to something far older than current trends. They are now observing you because they are unsure what to name you. They can't classify you. You are too grounded to be discarded, too knowledgeable to be rejected, and too genuine to be overlooked. You aren't here to fit in. You are here to disrupt, heal, and realign. And they didn't see you coming. Number 7, your movement is heavenly and not fashionable. You don't move like the others. And that's precisely what distinguishes you. While everyone else seeks importance, clout, and adulation, you're focused on something they can't have. A greater lesson, a deeper understanding, a heavenly rhythm. You're not performing. You're not following trends to remain visible. You're not hopping on bandwagons to remain in the know. You move when you're led, not if you're liked. And that is what confuses them. They have researched persons that become viral. They understand how the algorithm works, how attention is purchased, and how clout can be manipulated. But you're different. You're not clocking in for views. You're responding to a spiritual task. Your timing does not match the world's pace, and your stillness conveys volumes that cannot be drowned out by noise. You vanish while others are posting and return stronger than before. That is what keeps their attention fastened to your every move. They don't understand how you can remain relevant without shouting for attention. They don't understand how you can be effective without performing. But that's because your movement isn't based on performance. It is driven by a sense of purpose. You move like someone who understands that divine timing always outlasts fleeting fame. In a pattern-driven environment, this makes you unpredictable. They anticipate momentum to coincide with hype. But your momentum is derived from obeying. They anticipate results from visibility, but yours come from alignment. You're not just wandering through life. You're being coached through it. And since your source isn't public, they keep monitoring, trying to find out where your strength is coming from, but they'll never get through because what moves? You cannot be measured with likes, trends, or statistics. You're not attempting to trend. You're seeking to transcend. You aren't here to surf waves. You're the wave, and they can't imitate what they don't understand. Instead, they examine you, expecting your stillness would reveal a formula. But you are not following a formula. You're on a wonderful path, and no computer can forecast your next move. Number 8, you are the unwritten guidebook they cannot copy. You weren't given a playbook. Nobody offered you step-by-step directions, cheat codes, or even a guide. You had to find it out while struggling with anguish, rejection, and betrayal. You had to walk blind when others had mentors, shortcuts, and safety nets. And yet, you made it. You forged your route in the midst of turmoil, and it somehow worked. Now, they want to know how. They want to replicate what you created. However, they're omitting one essential fact that you were never copying in the first place. Your achievement did not result from a formula. It originated with fire. From late evenings spent fighting ideas no one knew about. From the point when quitting seemed simpler than breathing. But something deep within you refused to give up. You didn't design your life to impress others. You were surviving, and survival drove you to be inventive, purposeful, and smart in ways that no curriculum could ever teach. That is why they cannot copy you. Your blueprint is concealed in the storms you faced alone. They don't realize that what makes you strong cannot be packaged. You did not merely grow. You were forged. That suggests your strength was derived from pressure. Your clarity stemmed from perplexity. And your poem was inspired by your mental, emotional, and spiritual experiences while fighting in conflict zones. You did not just win. You earned every bit of your radiance. And now those who sought to undermine you are attempting to emulate you. They want your results without your approach. They want your spirit, not your sacrifice. But they don't understand you're the handbook. And it was written in your spirit, not on paper. There is no framework to follow and no shortcuts to trace. You did not advance by imitating. You ascended via becoming. And everything about you that cannot be taught is what makes you unstoppable. You are the original in a world preoccupied with reproductions. They cannot clone your route since it was designed just for someone with your scars, strength, and eyesight. You were not intended to be followed. You were intended to be understood. But only by those with the insight to comprehend that some textbooks are written in spirit rather than ink. Number 9. Your success was not accomplished. It was released. They believed they were killing you. When they rejected you, undermined you, and drove you over the brink. They assumed you'd collapse when they cut you off. What they didn't realize was that shoving you off the ladder didn't halt your progression. It triggered your wings. You did not ascend like they did since you were never supposed to follow their framework. You soared, and that is what they are unable to comprehend. You did not ascend by privilege or permission. You did not play the game or plead for a spot at the table. You were forcibly removed, counted out, and disregarded. And you continue to prosper since your success did not have to be constructed from beginning. It was something hidden behind the falsehoods, fear, and constraints you were taught to bear. Everything transformed the minute you dropped those weights. You did not become powerful. You exposed the strength that was previously present. They keep looking at your life as if you must have fallen into favor or been fortunate. But the reality is terrible. You earned it through struggle, clarity, and choices that other people are hesitant to make. You said no to something that seemed to be safe but was harmful. You prioritized healing over vengeance, progress over gossip, and purpose above popularity. And by doing so, you entered a domain that they were never educated to perceive. You reached levels without instructions not because someone taught you, but because you dared to ask greater questions. You broke codes they had no idea were genuine while they were occupied climbing status ladders and seeking approval. You were busy breaking generational barriers and reprogramming your brain. And when the system spewed you out, you did not die. You awoke. They are now watching, not because they wish to honor you, but because you are incredibly. They find their presence perplexing. You don't have the bitterness they anticipated. You don't resemble what you went through. Most significantly, you do not fit into the plot. They attempted to write for you. You were never meant to accomplish like them. You were designed to let go. And this is what makes you dangerous. You aren't what they anticipated. They had no idea what to expect from you. Number 10. Your work demonstrates your strength. They were betting on your demise, causing irreparable harm. They expected the treachery to make you furious and loud. They believed that rejection would make you clinging and insecure. They anticipated the falsehoods to transform you into someone nasty and unpredictable. But they didn't expect your tranquility. That's what's bothering them the most. Not your glow up, not your comeback, your peace. You are not bitter. You are not broken. You're not out here to clap back or prove anything. You're simply being still. And in a world that lives on noise and performance, the silence is uncomfortable. They believe that if they carried your name through the dirt, your spirit would never recover. But rather of receding, you grew. Rather of acting out, you turned within. And in that calm area, you discovered something people don't comprehend. Real power. Your work states, "I've healed in places you didn't even know about." We are bleeding. Your essay implies that I am not seeking vengeance. I became the evidence that nothing worked. When people can't shake you, they begin to study you. They want to know how you came to this state of tranquility. After all of the mayhem, how you're still gentle after the harm, how polite you are despite the disrespect, how you move with grace rather than grudges. They don't comprehend your peace was not given to you. It was earned. You needed a battle for it. You have to weep about it. You needed to unlearn poisonous behaviors, unplug from drama, and sever the cords that were draining your spirit. You did not choose peace because it was easy. You picked it because it was the only option that did not involve you betraying yourself. And now that same tranquility has become your strength. You did not shout your truth. You lived it. You did not desire vengeance. You let your recovery to speak for itself. And in that stillness, you had the final word. Your article revealed everything they sought to conceal. And this is why they can't stop watching. Because in a chaotic world, your serenity is revolutionary. Number 11. You are a danger because you do not need a throne. They believe that you would be weak without recognition. That without the limelight, platform, or approbation, you would fade into the background. But you didn't. You kept climbing. You did not pursue a title. You did not beg for a job. And that is precisely why you pose such a danger. You never required the throne to exercise power. You stroll through it. You don't need applause to feel worthwhile. You don't wait for others to vote for you before taking the lead. You don't need the crown since you already carry the weight of one in your thoughts, movements, interactions with others, and handling pressure. That's what makes them nervous. Titles may be removed. Positions may be taken. But presence is genuine, and it cannot be faked or withdrawn. You have an energy that speaks for itself. You command respect without demanding it. You alter the environment without attempting to control it. You affect others not because you are loud, but because you are grounded. And when someone like you turns up, someone who is strong without being showy, grounded without being arrogant, it shocks those who rely on external strength to feel important. They believed you required affirmation to feel whole, but you established your personality in quiet. You realized your value while no one was applauding. You discovered your power when no one believed in you, and now you've matured into it. You are untouchable because your confidence is not derived from a profession, a relationship, a platform, or a following. It stems from understanding who you are without having to prove it. That is what they do not grasp. That is what they are viewing. You're not looking to be crowned. You already know you've been picked. Your calm dominance speaks louder than any ceremony could. You did not have to sit on a throne to rule your country. You ascended the throne. That's why they're worried. Because your strength does not have to be revealed. It simply is. Number 12. They wanted you gone. They now want to know how you ascended. They were certain that shoving you out would be the end of your narrative. They murmured, planned, and waited for you to come apart. Some even rejoiced prematurely, believing they had finally suppressed your talents. However, you did not fold. You didn't disappear. You rose, and not just quietly, but in a manner that exposed every lie they had lied about you. That's what they're now viewing. Not adulation, but distrust and disbelief. They didn't believe someone like you, whom they fought tirelessly to ruin, could rebuild from nothing. But you didn't just rebuild. You built something that has never been before. You fashioned meaning out of the rubble of their treachery. From the embers of rejection, you started a fire that they cannot put out. And now they are inquisitive. How did you do that? How did you move from being the one they written off to becoming the one they accepted? Which one can they not ignore? They aren't watching because they support you. They are watching because they can't understand you. You were intended to be an example of what occurs when a person is kept out. Instead, you became an example of what occurs when someone connects with their higher self and refuses to give up. You did not adhere to the established norms of success. You did not network your way into rooms or beg to be noticed. You just linked with your mission, healed, concentrated, and leveled up in solitude. That's the bit that is tormenting them right now. They want your formula. They want to reverse engineer the ascension they never thought conceivable for you. But they don't realize that there was no formula. What you produced was the result of spiritual downloads, intense contemplation, and an unwavering confidence that your life still mattered, even when no one applauded. You got up because you stopped waiting for permission. They wanted you gone because your light was too visible. But now they want access because your presence contains answers they cannot discover elsewhere. You are the paradox that demonstrates that success isn't necessarily loud, linear, or supported by approval. You're what occurs when someone resolves to rise anyway, and they can't stop watching, hoping to capture the secret in your steps. You never realized the true secret was who you become when they believed you were done. Number 13. You became the teacher they didn't deserve. They did everything to shut you down. They insulted your development, diminished your voice, laughed at your suffering, and ignored your vision. They saw your knowledge as a danger. Your reality is too harsh. Your understanding goes too far. However, in their attempt to quiet you, they accomplished the exact opposite. They improved your voice, messaging, and overall presence. Now, the same people who label you crazy, too deep, or too serious are discreetly scrutinizing your every action, trying to learn the truth. They were formerly mocked. You did not set out to become a teacher. You were only trying to survive. You were only attempting to make sense of the turmoil, treachery, and spiritual battle. But somewhere in the midst of the chaos, you gained wisdom. The kind of knowledge that comes not from books or titles, but from breaking, healing, and returning whole. You are not attempting to impart lessons. You became one. Now your life is a textbook. The lecture represents your own evolution. Your quiet is the test. They are watching you not because they support you, but because they are looking for solutions. Your growth makes people uncomfortable, not because you brag, but because you expose. You expose where they gave up, where they feigned success, and where they took shortcuts. Every time you rise, you remind them of what they have avoided inside themselves. They assumed you were simple to discard. They believed your voice had no importance. However, life proved differently. Your breakout is now loud and reverberates in places they sought to keep you out of. They're watching from the sidelines, attempting to replicate your light and cite your lucidity. However, they lack the necessary infrastructure to support it. They want the fruits, not the roots. But everything you carry has been paid for in full by fire, loneliness, and perseverance. And now, the irony is heavy. You became the instructor they had never respected, but now sorely needed. You never attempted to impress them. That's what makes your influence so powerful. You do not need a pulpit. You don't need their compliments. Your life preaches by simply being, and your climb teaches lessons. Their egos are too fragile to accept that they needed to learn. Number 14. You made it, but you made it complete. You made it, but not in the manner they had anticipated. Not by faking, not by performing, not by treading on others to advance. You rose without sacrificing your soul, and it is what has left them astonished. Because in their world, success nearly always comes at a cost. Compromise your principles. Fake your image. Betray the truth. Seek approval like cash. But you did not do any of it. You went the long, hard, and honest route and still made it. They do not grasp it. You did not play the game, yet you won. You did not shape-shift to fit within their molds. You did not dilute your essence to make it more acceptable. You showed up raw, authentic, and prepared. And somehow, it was sufficient. That is what they cannot explain. Because most individuals who ascend either lose themselves in the process or create a fabricated image of themselves. But you remained grounded. You maintained your honesty. You remained you, and the degree of authenticity at the top. It's unusual. You did not exchange your purity for power. You learned they could coexist. That is the portion that is rewriting their whole belief system since they were taught, and have taught others, that in order to achieve, you must sacrifice something. That tenderness has to be surrendered. That empathy is a weakness, and that being authentic is foolish. However, you've shown that purity and power are not mutually exclusive. They are amplifiers, and that fact is difficult for those who have sacrificed their essence in order to succeed. What they see in you is disconcerting because it calls into question everything they've come to expect. You made it, but you still have your light. You still have your heart. You still own your soul. You did not grow cold, arrogant, or manipulative to live. You became deeper, clearer, and wiser. You are the version of success that they said did not exist. A chosen one bearing both wounds and sovereignty. Someone who has experienced darkness, but has not let it consume them. Someone who is broken, yet did not become bitter. Someone who has been silenced, but he learned to talk with authority. You did not just come, you came whole. And in a world full of pieces and facades, it is what genuinely sets you apart. They believed they were burying you, but they were just planting you. They had no idea that every rejection, betrayal, and lies said in your name was increasing pressure on a soul that had already decided. You weren't just designed to survive. You were supposed to become proof. Evidence that you do not need to sell your soul to succeed. Evidence that peace equals power. Evidence that authenticity continues to undermine anything based on performance and ego. You did not simply make it. You made it entire. And suddenly your life is the subject of their insatiable curiosity. They are watching you, not because they understand you, but because they don't. Because you deciphered a code they were taught did not exist. You recovered from sabotage without vengeance. You achieved without imitating. You shined without being validated. You are a walking contradiction to their systems, as well as a live example of what occurs when spirit takes precedence over ego. That is why they are researching you. That's why they're trapped in silent obsession. You broke away from generational traps, changed blueprints in real time, and prioritized healing above hatred. You have a frequency that cannot be duplicated and a destiny that cannot be altered. They may attempt to copy your steps, but they will never reproduce your content. Because it was not taught, it was forged. So keep going like you're an abnormality. Continue speaking when led, but be silent when it is holy. Keep shining without seeking permission. You do not need their adulation. You already have alignment. You do not need the crown. You already have the kingdom inside. And the next time you wonder why you're being watched so carefully, remember that they attempted to eliminate you. They can't quit trying to comprehend you. You're the blueprint. You are the shift. You are the prophesy they didn't see coming. And you did not merely rise. You reimagine what rising looks like. If this message aroused something in your soul, causing you to contemplate, recollect, or perhaps go deeper into your own truth, don't stop there. Subscribe to the channel to never miss another message designed for you in divine timing. I like this video if it validates what your spirit already understood. Leave a comment below to let your voice be heard. Your perspective might be the medication someone else needs right now. Share this with someone who is on their quiet journey of becoming. Let them know they are not alone and that choosing peace is not insane. Depth and sincerity in a noisy environment. This is not just a channel. It is a movement, a shelter for the selected, the real, the resilient. So, remain connected, be aligned, and most importantly, be loyal to who you are becoming. Because believe me, the world has seen nothing yet. God bless you. Dear viewers, your support through Super Chat and membership is the only source of income that keeps this channel running. If you want me to continue uploading valuable content without delays and to stay motivated in providing you with the best wisdom, I need your help. Every contribution, big or small, makes a huge difference. Feel free to donate and support Pure Wisdom so we can keep growing together. Your generosity keeps this journey alive.
If you're enjoying the content on Pure Wisdom and find value in the messages we share, I encourage you to subscribe. Based on the latest analytics, 93.9% of viewers are watching without subscribing. By subscribing, you not only stay updated with new content, but also support the channel's growth, allowing us to continue spreading wisdom for the chosen ones. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an important message. Let's build this community together.